Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Launching My Startup in Nova Scotia. My name is Carly Appleton, and I am part of the communications team at the Cape Breton Partnership. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to our partners at Futurpreneur, Island Sauce, the Nova Scotia Regional Enterprise Networks, and the Halifax Partnership. Before we get started, I'll give you a few tips for Zoom to best maximize today's experience for you. The first thing is we cannot hear you or see you. So if you need to stretch your legs or grab a drink, please feel free to do so at any time. If you're experiencing technical difficulties and need assistance, please select the chat button on the bottom of your screen and we will do our best to help. Today's session includes a Q&A component. If you have a question, please feel free to type it in the Q&A tool located at the bottom of your screen. Today's session will be recorded and will be circulated to all attendees at a later date. I hope you all enjoy today's session, no matter what stage your business is currently in. I'd like to now hand it over to David Eisnor, Business Development Team Lead at Atlantic with Futurpreneur.
Hello, thank you so much, Carly. This is great to be here. Thanks for those of you on the call for joining. So my name, as Carly mentioned, I'm David Eisnor. I'm based in Nova Scotia. I'm the business development team lead with Futurpreneur. I'm going to share my screen and just do a couple quick slides, and then we'll jump into the core of the presentation. Bear with me as I get this open. From the beginning. And I guess the first thing I'd like to say is thank you to the Nova Scotia Regional Enterprise Networks for partnering on this initiative and getting to bring this webinar to you. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are located on Mi'kma'ki, me in Nova Scotia. I'm located on Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And I think it's a very important thing to be doing, especially leading up to September 30th, which is a day which we will also acknowledge a larger part of that as well. I'm going to start with a poll. So as we get into this workshop, we were curious to know who's on the call. So the poll is going to come up and it's going to ask you a couple of, or one, I guess, to choose one of many options. Are you an early stage entrepreneur, or what stage of entrepreneurship, or is it possible that you're a service provider? So we'd just like to see. So take a moment and click the appropriate button there, and then we're going to see the results. Just curious to see who's in the room before we jump into the presentation. Okay. It's another second probably left, and then it's going to end on us. And let's look at the results. Okay, so we've got some folks exploring their options, a couple. We've got some individuals who've been in operation for a couple of months. Okay, so you've just got it started. That's great. And we've got a few service providers on the call. So that's great. So for those people who are exploring their options, or they've been in business for a few months, hopefully this will be a very valuable workshop for you. The service providers will learn a bit more about Futurpreneur, so that's awesome as well. And Carly mentioned about questions and answers. There's going to be an opportunity to type them by clicking Q&A, but if you want to put a Q in there, that you can actually just put a Q in there, and Carly can actually call on you, and you can actually ask your question when we get to the section of asking questions. So I'm going to close the poll now, and I'm going to go into the next slide. There we are. So this is a bit of an agenda for us. This is the intro we're doing. We're going to introduce you to Keven Taylor from the Island Sauce Company, and he's been in all the promotions. So likely those of you who are signed up knew that you're going to get a chance to chat with Keven. We're going to have him tell a little bit of his story. Then I'm going to go into a bit of a question and answer with Keven, and that's where you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions as well. I'll jump into some basic information about Futurpreneur and how to get in contact with us, and then if there's any final questions towards the end, and Tyler will also touch on the regional enterprise networks as well. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying hello. I'll introduce you to our, I guess I'll call it our keynote or our storyteller today. It's Keven Taylor from Island Sauce Company. So he's a Futurpreneur entrepreneur. He's from Sydney, so he's from, or I shouldn't say he's from, he lives in Sydney, so he has a business in that part of the province, and we're going to hear a bit of his story. So Keven, I'll pass it over to you to say hello and share your story. And I should check. Do I do the next part, Carly, or? There we go.
Hello, I got my audio here, and just I don't know if the video component's coming through.
Not yet.
There we go.
There we go.
So, hey everyone, my name is Keven Taylor. Thanks. I'm honored, first of all, that anyone would take the time to listen to what I have to say. So I really appreciate that. It's always an honor for people to want to hear what you have to say and hear your story. I'll apologize for the cell phone video. We had some technical difficulties with the laptop, so I'm coming in through my phone. So I apologize for the lack of production of the style of video here. Anyways, yeah, my name is Keven Taylor. I am the, I guess, founder, owner, president. I don't know how these titles work sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, but I'm all of the above of Island Sauce Company. For those of you who have heard of us, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope everyone has, but if not, we're sauce and food condiment company, amongst many other things, and we're located in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. We currently have 5 products that are sold in over 40 stores throughout the province, along with an online store. We also have our takeout food shop, catering business, and yeah, so we have a kind of a multi-level business here, but it's really predominantly a sauce and food condiment business. We also have clothing, merchandise, and things of that nature. So we've been in full business for a little over a year. Now I'm going to circle back because there's some more to that story. But we basically launched this full aspect of our business in May of last year, which coincided with the beginning of the global pandemic. So that was fun for me, right? But it added some challenges that we'll talk a little bit in this presentation. But yes, we've been in full-time business for a little over a year. So that means we have our wholesale sauce and food condiments, we have our takeout food shop, we have our catering business, our online store, and stuff like that. We actually had a retail store in the Mayflower Mall, our local mall, over the holidays, over the winter. That was pretty cool. But yeah, what I mean by we've been in full-time business, so we really started this in 2017. It started very small. Basically, we got a small loan, launched in 2017. We're in business for a few months before everything kind of fell apart. One was in Nova Scotia at the time. There wasn't really any producers that could basically produce our product. We found one originally, and it didn't take long for them to go out of business or stop doing it. And that kind of left us without a viable option to continue our.
Keven, you appear to be muted there.
Hey, there we go. We're back. So yeah, so we were in a tough situation in 2017. We had really no money, and then we had no place to produce our product. So for the years the next couple of years, I battled and fought and tried to make my dream a reality. It took a long time, basically, like I said, until we launched again in May of last year of 2020. So between the end of 2017 and the beginning of May of 2020, we were working on finding a facility that could produce our products, getting the proper funding, and if you can tell how long that timeline was, it was a long, hard journey. And I don't wish that trials and tribulations on anybody, any entrepreneur. It was tough. It was really hard. Most people told us to quit, and I thought about it long and hard many times. Thankfully, David from Futurpreneur helped, came through in the end, and we got this thing off and rolling. To further that, another gentleman named Paul Hill, who owns a sauce and food condiment company here in Nova Scotia called Hill's Jamaican Jerk, he put up his own money and built a production facility in Halifax that was able to give companies like myself and other food producers a place to get our products produced. So one question I always get, and people find it interesting, that's why I want to talk about it now, is that everyone kind of thinks that we had a sauce business, or this was kind of a side hustle, and we had mom and pops, famous recipes, and we were making them, and then we decided to, let's try to take this thing a little bigger. That's not the case, and this is, I think, what's important when you're looking to start a business or in something that you want to have long-term success in, and especially if you plan on doing it at a larger scale. The funny thing is that the sauce thing was never something we originated on. Basically, I realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and start a business. The structure and the style of the business, I knew what I wanted. So we can look at East Coast lifestyle, which would be clothing. You could look at Nova Scotia Spear Company, which would be alcohol. You can look at Breton Brewery or many of the microbreweries. So those would be some examples. I wanted to do something like that. But having said that, when you looked at the clothing, the East Coast lifestyle, okay, so clothing's kind of done that. There's that. So we looked at the, alcohol. There's plenty of people in alcohol locally and otherwise. Then we looked at the microbreweries and stuff like that. So those things were already kind of, that style of business was already being done and being done well in our region, which we'll say that our region would be Nova Scotia and maybe the Maritimes. And then we looked into sauce, and that's when I started to see that there was an opening. So I come from a food and beverage background. So the sauce and food, like I was sauce and food condiment connoisseur. It wasn't like that we didn't have a background in that, but it was more like we looked at the market, look what was needed. So our style of sauce and food condiments, I'm gonna do some shameless self promotion. So here's a bottle of our sauce. Here's a bottle of our seasoning. What we saw was that there wasn't really anything out there in our market from a local perspective that was being anything done at scale and stuff that's different. We looked at, and there was so much opportunity. Every bit, you could get your bullseye barbecue, your craft barbecue sauce, but there really wasn't a lot in that market. So I guess my point is that a lot of background research was done to know that we had an idea for something that we could have success in at scale in our region. So we looked at, there was a huge opening. There was no one doing anything of this style of what we were doing in the sauce and food condiment, segment of, there was lots of people in other sections. So that kind of dictated what business we decided to start. Now, with that being said, it was something that we were comfortable with. It was something that we knew very well. So what I did originally, when I kind of done that market research, realized there was an opportunity that we could capitalize on. I went and found one of my good friends who was a chef, brought him into the company, brought him into the idea from the startup, which brought another professional, someone that's good at that side of the business, because I wasn't necessarily a professional or someone that was excellent at that. I went and searched that out. It was, once again, it was this pre-work you do to set yourself up to have a successful business moving forward and have an idea that you can really, really run with prior to launching or whatever it may be. So I brought Nathan Susan, who is a chef, and that's where we kind of got off and started. Now, it took us a lot longer than we wanted to really get it going. I mentioned we started this in 2017, and it wasn't until about 2020 where we really kind of launched it off with our sauce, our takeout food shop, our online store, our retail store, catering business, and so on and so on. And that was almost a blessing in disguise in a lot of ways, because it gave me years of seasoning, of planning, of preparing, so that when the time did come, we were ready, and we were more than ready. And I mean, I still make tons of mistakes, and that's part of the journey, and that's part of the job. But that was, all that one is really focusing in on and doing the market research and making sure that there's a business there to be had, and that you're not saturating the market, and you're really doing something that you believe in, and spending the time preparing and learning and doing all those things before you really go all out and launch. So it gives yourself a better chance of success. Now we have to. It would be rude of me not to bring up Futurpreneur and how they helped in this process. So I think that people that are thinking about starting a business or already maybe have started or own a business and are in the early process of running it. I know a lot of people in our region, Nova Scotia, maybe even more so Cape Breton, don't know about Futurpreneur and what they provide. And I was lucky to find them, and that's part of doing all the digging that you have to do when you're really trying to get something off the ground. But I didn't come from a family with like family money, or I'm not a person with a ton of high level connections in the community or anything like that. I'm kind of a loner in a lot of ways. But so with that being said, it was harder for me in some aspects to really get this thing off the ground. So one was finding the facility that could produce our products. I was looking in Ontario. I was looking all over, and that created logistic problems, and then that created issues where people wouldn't give us money because the logisticals didn't necessarily work out. So once we kind of found that the production facility here in Nova Scotia, it was then about securing the funding that we needed to, and the the tools, not just the funding, but the mentorship, the access to, you know, asking questions, and a whole bunch of other things. We had trouble with like your traditional lending institutions, your standard banks. We had a little bit of trouble with that. Local investors, same thing. And plus, it's never ideal to give up a portion of your company before you really know what it is, and get going. And that's where Futurpreneur, like David, I had reached out to them earlier in my journey, and he actually reached back out to me, which I'm very thankful for, and asked how the journey was going. I told him the problems we were still having, and we got the ball rolling with them. And they really, I really can't stress. I hope we share this video and more people in Cape Breton find out about this, in Nova Scotia find out about Futurpreneur, because that my involvement with them and how they work with me really was like, I don't think there would be an island sauce company without Futurpreneur. We had some help with the city credit union here in Cape Breton. There, don't get me wrong, and other people helped out, but the services and the funding opportunities for Futurpreneur, after a long, hard journey, without them, we wouldn't be here. And we're off to a really good start in our company. We've only been going, like I said, full time for a little over a year. And as I mentioned, we are in almost 50 stores throughout the province. We're probably going to be in a couple hundred by this time next year. And it's hard for people sometimes to get that funding to find and put all those pieces together, especially if you don't know where to go. And how, you know, because I think everyone's, you know, first instinct is just to go down to your local bank. I would always recommend credit unions because they're a little bit more locally centric. But a place like Futurpreneur, man, I can't like, as you can tell by me going on about it, that I just can't stress how grateful and how wonderful an opportunity they provide aspiring entrepreneurs, and especially we're in kind of a rural, like city's not rural, but Cape Breton, small place. I was surprised to finally find people that actually cared, that would invest in our idea and our future, and it's really paid dividends for us. I guess I will talk a little bit about, since I have some time here, you know, opening up during the pandemic. And what I will say is that, you know, one thing I like to try to say about our business is that we're in the solutions business, not the problem business. So I was, as you can tell from when I said I tried to start this in 2017 and I didn't get it going until 2019 or 2020, sorry, was that there was always problems, always something that came up, and it was just constant. But I never looked like I'm in the business of not just sauce and food condiments, which are delicious, by the way, but I'm in the solution business. I'm not in the problem. I want to provide solutions to our customers, which is, like, you know, enhancing the flavor of their food and the enjoyment of their meal. I'm in the solution business of everything aspect of how to run a successful business and give the value to our customers and our community. So when the pandemic came, we were just about to get our funding. Think about this. So all those years I talked about how long it took me to get going, we got the okay from everybody, the funding, we're ready to go. And they go, well, actually, now that this pandemic hits, we're going to have to hold on. You have to reprove to us that your business is viable in a pandemic. Luckily for us, people don't stop eating food. So that no matter what, you know, pandemic happens, that's always going to be a core. So it was just one more hurdle that we had to overcome. Another solution that we had to find. You know, we don't sit and dwell on the problems per se. We always try to find solutions. Now, when we opened our business and there was the pandemic was going on, every day you're constantly, you know, trying to find solutions. But that's how you have to keep on, like, raising the level of your business. Is if you can find more solutions than, you know, your competitors or the next person, that will give you a leg up in the business. So we didn't, during the pandemic, we not only launched our business, we expanded our business, we hired more employees. And that's one thing I'm really proud of. And it goes back to said, I'm in the solution business, not the problem business, was that and I feel for every business owner and every person that's been affected by the pandemic. But I'm really proud to say that even in our, you know, basically first full year of business, that we grew during the pandemic. We hired people. We didn't lay anyone off. We still provided our customers with value, and it was hard. There was a lot of things we had to do to make that happen. But if you have that mindset, it really, really, really helps. All right, sorry, I got to take a breath there. I can get going a little bit. So for anyone that doesn't know about like our products, so basically we have 3 barbecue sauce, which is another thing I want to go back to when you're thinking about your business and coming up with the core values and what you're going to do so that it can be successful long term with scale. So I get a lot like, oh, well, why did you come up with a hot sauce? Because I mean, hot sauce is fairly popular. Everyone loves hot sauce. But here's the thing, is that I looked at the market and what it needed. It didn't need another hot sauce. We have Dave's here in Nova Scotia, which is very popular, and there's thousands of hot sauce out there. But we saw that there was the barbecue sauce market was not nearly as saturated with nothing local, and there was some opportunity in the seasonings market. So we strategized that. Prior to launching the business, we developed our recipes around those ideas. Now, Nathan, our chef, already had some pre-developed recipes, and we worked together on some other ones. But it's that strategical line of thinking that, so you can position yourself to be successful. So we have we launched with our Cape Smoky Barbecue. It's got a Cape Breton base, Smoky Mountain taste. We got our Highlander Honey Barbecue. It's got a honey flavor, and it's got a saucy behavior. And we got our Spicy Chipotle Barbecue. It's got a Chipotle bite, but it's spiced just right. So that was our products. Here's a bottle of our Spicy Chipotle right here. If anyone doesn't know what they look like, that's a bottle of our sauce. And it was another thing we kind of thought of these taglines. Excuse me. We thought it was a cool marketing tactic to add to the sauce. Yeah, so that's our product. Hopefully people have tried them and enjoy them. But it was something we thought of that we could also like build into the barbecue market here in Nova Scotia and the Maritime and position ourselves in the barbecue market. So for instance, because we're positioned in more of the cooking and barbecue line of things, like right now we have a branded soft meat thermometers coming in, and because it aligns with everything we're doing, and we thought of that originally strategically before we launched, is how can this branch out to other levels, 3rd level, 4th level. Okay, you could sell barbecue accessories. You can get into the barbecue. There's not necessarily a barbecue, really strong barbecue market or culture here in Cape Breton or Nova Scotia and the Maritimes. We can really help be a part of that and build it and grow it. Now, if you look at our seasonings, here's one here. It's the jalapeno and garlic, and we have another one called the Love Rub. Once again, it's something different. A love rub, it's a share the love, spread the love. Share the love, spread the rub. And the jalapeno and garlic's got jalapeno heat, the garlic treat. Once again, people would ask us, well, why don't you do a Montreal steak spice or something along those lines? Once again, that's a market that we looked at, that there's already those kind of options. We want to do something different, something new, and something that adds value to our customers, something that gives us a reason to stand out. Yeah, so that's a little bit about our products. Once again, we have a catering business, a takeout food shop, and see how the way you think about a lot of the stuff that you do, or at least that we did, was obviously there are different sources of revenue that we were able to use. So we're not just relying on one thing to drive our company, and we can also use it. So when we do a catering or whatever it may be, or cooking at our shop, we can videotape that, edit it, cut it up, and use it as marketing. So there's lots of different ways you can. If we have different aspects to your business, you can have different lines of revenue, which we thought of and which we do, and you can use it for marketing purposes. So anyways, so we're going strong. We plan on our future's bright. We're still struggling in some ways. We're always making mistakes and learning, but thanks to a lot of hard work by me and Nathan and our families, and the people at Sydney Credit Union and Futurpreneur, we were able to kind of bring our dream to reality. And the last thing I will say before we stop here is that, like, we have great people here in Cape Breton. We have great people here in Nova Scotia. We have smart people. We have the best people in the world, and we can do everything right here. And it's just having the help. And if anything else, I'm just a regular guy. I'm not anything. I'm just a regular guy. And if I'm able to do something like this, so can everybody else. And yeah, so I guess that's it for me. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Keven, so much. We've had a chance, obviously, to chat a lot during the past year and a half around, you getting started, but I've never had a chance to hear the story and where you've come from. So that's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I hadn't realized, it's interesting. I sort of thought there was a side hustle maybe component, but now that you've said, you started sort of working on it, I didn't realize you'd worked for that many years before you were able to do the launch. So there's some perseverance for sure. And thanks again for the kind words, obviously, about Futurpreneur, and Futurpreneur is here because of amazing and passionate entrepreneurs like yourself. So that's what we're here for. So that's great to see. so we're going to hit the Q&A section. I see we've got one question already in there. The very bottom of your screen, you're going to see Q&A. You can click on that, and that's where you're going to see the questions. You're going to see some of them, people that have answered some of those questions. Once the answer's there, type it a Q. If you want to ask your question, just type a Q and we can bring you off mute. And I say that I think we can bring you off mute. And if we, yeah, we can bring you off mute and we can actually get you to ask that question. Or if you just want to ask the question, then we'll jump into those. I've got a couple pre-prepped questions. I'm going to start with Keven, and then I'll jump. I see there's one there. I'll jump into that one after a bit. But the first one you touched on, you mentioned that it's Hills. I can't think the name of the company you mentioned that is the kitchen you use. Do you make your own sauce, or does somebody else make it for you?
No, that's correct. We use a co-packer as of right now. His name's Paul Hill, and his company is called Hill's Jamaican Jerk. He has his own sauce company as well. He's actually planning on launching a new company that's called like Atlantic Food Production, so more people can recognize it as he's a food producer, not just but yeah, we use a co-packer. Someday we hope to maybe open and run our own facility, but that's a big like kind of investment. So we use Paul and as a co-packer right now.
I want to jump in now. So co-packer. So I know, obviously we know what that means, but somebody who's new to business may not understand the concept and maybe like, well, why would you pay someone when you can do it yourself? Explain maybe a little bit about that so they can understand some of the benefits of hiring a co-packer, or partnering, I should say, with a co-packer.
Well, like there's obviously the pros and cons. One, you have to find one that you have a good relationship, that you trust and all that kind of stuff. Not every, you have to make sure it's right for you. But the pros and cons are really easy, simple. Is that the pro is that like you can spend more. That's a big investment. Like for instance, for us to build a facility, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, a lot of oversight, a lot of litigation and kind of things like that. Where now we just pay a fee, and that frees up my time to market and sell my product. So it frees up a lot of time. The cost of goods sold costs us more, but it does free up a lot of time and to market and sell our product, and it saves us from the initial investment. Obviously, the pro of not using a co-packer and doing it yourself is you lower your cost of goods sold, but that also comes with another levels of investment and huge responsibility.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna jump between my questions and the ones that come. So I've got a question from Kate who's on the line. It says, how difficult was it to get startup capital? I know you've touched on some of the financing partners that you've had, but how difficult was it to get that startup financing?
Kate, it was insanely difficult. It was the most difficult thing that's ever happened in my life. But in part because of where I'm located, Cape Breton, and like what I was trying to do. So it was very difficult. It took a lot of perseverance, and it really took us finding Futurpreneur. But like I said, it's not the same for every business though. I don't want that to sound like a detriment. It could be easy for some people. Depends on what your business plan is and where you're located. But it was insanely hard, but we got it done in the end. So.
And I remember those days. It's funny you said when the pandemic started, and all of a sudden, answer this question and answer that question.
It was tough.
And I mean, we were doing our due diligence. We didn't want to give someone money in the beginning of a global pandemic and have them fail. So I mean, that's why. I mean, that obviously, but just in case people wonder why is Futurpreneur asking questions, but that's really what it was all about. But so tell me, you've started your business in, and I know Sydney is a city, but it's a more rural part of the country. What was it like starting a product business in a more rural setting?
Great, actually. The one good thing about like that over anything else, that we get more support. We're not just like there's not as much competition if you're doing something kind of unique, and there's not as much and there's more local support. So that's the pro. Like we get a ton of support. We know a lot of people know us like just personally, or a friend of a friend. Through different lines. So we get a lot of support from the community. It gives you a great chance to succeed, because it gives you a chance to survive at the start, because you're able to build a strong foundation with your local community that seems to be more supportive than if you were just in a much more metropolitan bigger city. You're just another fly on the wall in some for lack of a better term. So it was great, and what makes it hard or more difficult is the challenges with like not freight, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like
shipping,
yeah,
yeah,
just like
distribution.
Getting like your bottles to all that kind of stuff, and then being able to get your products to once you're at that time in your business to get your products to the bigger metropolitan thing. But it's pros and cons. But I think the big pro is it gives you a foundation. If you do it right, if you're strong in your community and you do well in your community, it gives you that foundation to survive and build towards growing. But it doesn't come without its challenges. There's no question about it.
For sure. There you go. So it's interesting. Kate jumped in with a couple questions early on, so I'm going to jump back to one of her first. But she was curious, and actually touch on this maybe, but know that I'm going to do a presentation afterward. But she asked, what services did Futurpreneur provide that really helped you?
Well, just working with me on like the cash flow the cash flow, knowing what I needed to provide. What the funding, obviously, like the capital, but it was like it was the steps that allowed me to get the capital. So I was working through the cash flow, working through my business plan. They work with me hand in hand throughout the whole process. So like the cash flow, the business plan, and basically like if I hadn't got, let's say if Futurpreneur wasn't able to give me funding, I would have then had a much more strong base to go get fundings elsewhere, because Futurpreneur kind of gives you all the works through your cash flow statements, asks all the right questions, so you know what you're doing, you know how to approach everything. They also offer mentorship, and they're just really accessible and to answer your questions and to give you the help and guidance you need. And then they give you, if you have a viable business, they help you out with the funding, which is what everyone needs in the end. So. Yeah,
and one of my questions, you touched on you mentioned cash flow a couple times, so clearly you like Excel and you're good with the numbers. But what about a business plan? Do you have a business plan?
Yeah, I did, I still do. It's a little different now. It's a lot more like not long form, if that makes sense. When you're starting to, you have to long form everything, which is a great exercise when you're starting out, because you really have to get it all out of your mind on the paper, and and it's one of those things I talked about all the years it took me to get going, is that my business plan evolved and changed so much over time, even from when we first tried to get the business going to when we actually launched it. So business plan is important. I think once you to get up and going, and once you are up and going, you don't have to go. You still have to have a ever evolving business plan, but it probably doesn't have to be as long form as it does when you're first launching.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this thing, I think it's an evolving. You mentioned it's an evolving document. It changes. That some people will say often, the moment you open your business plan is now incorrect. You need to redo it.
yeah. But I would say that once you're running your business, don't spend time working on your business, not on your business plan. They go hand in hand some ways, but you don't want to have the best business plan in the world in a failing business, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, right? For sure. I mean, it's a good point. I'll tell a quick story. I remember we worked with someone years and years ago. He spent the whole winter developing his business plan. And then the moment he submitted it, he was done. It was for a snow removal company, and then the winter was over. And sometimes you just got to pick up the shovel. So I mean, there are some aspects, obviously, you're right. But right. yeah. So Lynn, right. Lynn, and that's a true story. Lynn has a question. She's curious if you'd welcome new product collaborations, perhaps with well-known restaurants, and would you ever consider co-branding a product?
Yeah, we're opening up for everything. That's absolutely. That's what we want to. We're hopeful. I want to team up with maybe some breweries to do some co-branding sauces, and that's one thing we're looking to do now. Just to answer the question, was that it took us a year to kind of get our base products on the shelves and get our kind of business established, and now we're looking to do some more fun stuff, whether it's co-promote on products with other small businesses, even if they're just kind of like limited time things, or working with restaurants, or doing anything, because we want to work with as many local companies as possible, and kind of use each other's followings to help build each other up and just add value to our customers in our community. So yes, to answer the question.
Okay. And I'm curious, you mentioned you're in stores. Did you say over 100? Did you tell me?
No, just approximately 50 stores throughout the province.
Oh, sorry, 50 stores. And that's all at this point in time, you're across the province, right?
Yeah. And to be honest, we would be in probably, if I had more time, if there's more time in the day, we'd be way more than that. We're listed through Sobeys, so we're listed, so we could theoretically put our sauce in any Sobeys across the country. We've got the gold stamp from Sobeys, so we're in every Sobeys Cape Breton, And then we're in some stores like Pete's Boutique in Halifax, which are owned by Sobeys. But the only reason we won't be in everyone in the province has just been the time and the logistical stuff we have to work out. But yeah,
sure.
So we're in over 50 stores, and most of them being the main grocery stores. And then there's always your seasonal, your gift shop, all those types of things.
And I'm curious, did you reach out to each of those stores independently, or did you find a local distributor?
No, I reached them all independently. But then see, the thing is we did. So there's a lot of that's the thing about Cape Breton. There's you have to, but once you're in co-op, food lands, I did the most of them individually, but that's kind of behind me now in some ways. I'll still have to reach out to some of them individually, and this is by choice. But we sell well in the stores, and we're already listed. So it's like, there's no really, I don't have to twist their arm. We just go, it's basically just introduce myself and, oh, you're already listed. Oh, it's selling well. You're in, but yes, I have. And just I will follow up on that a little bit, is that we've made a strategical move to invest a lot in our sauce racks. So they're merchandising racks. They're steel, metal. Yeah. And I service them independently. We could go into a store and get shipped to their warehouse with Sobeys, and they could just put it on the shelf, and maybe we'll do that someday. But we wanted to go in and work with the stores individually to get our sauce racks put in right by where people buy meat or hamburger or steaks, and that way our product was more recognizable, and we sold way more, and we created that brand following. So it's something we strategically did. That we might not do for the rest, we're not going to be able to do that if we're sold in Manitoba somewhere, obviously. But but it's something we did initially to kind of help the cause.
Oh, that's great! I love the idea of having it right by the meat too. That's a perfect setting. I'm going to buy a steak if that's what I'm putting on it.
Yeah, and that's what it's worked out great. But that's the kind of stuff we had to do at ourselves, to help. If we had to just said, hey, put us in your store, and we just shipped them in the bottles. They would have just put it on a shelf somewhere where we're hands-on with a lot of this stuff. So.
Yeah. I've got a question from Dana, and I'm just sort of looking at it. If you're writing questions, I'm just going to mention, I don't think there's any, but if there's any questions in the chat, just make sure you put them over in the Q&A. Were any other local programs besides Futurpreneur beneficial to you? So any other local organizations, maybe across the island or across Nova Scotia, that you were able to take advantage of?
Yeah. Yep. Tons, a lot. Well, CBDC, we work with them, and this is what I would stress to anyone that's starting a business or already running one. Is there's so many different things if you really scratch and claw and look around and ask people and stuff. I use the START program. I've used that before, which gives you, it helps you pay for an employee to help kind of train them so that they're better. So that's a wage subsidy programs. I've used ones that help me with CBDC that helped us with marketing stuff. So CBDC is one, but there's a nest of we use the Chamber of Commerce for certain ones. I've gone to there's LearnSphere, who I went to a webinar, or I went to seminars when there used to be seminars instead of webinars. So and I can always I feel free, people can always reach out to me outside of this, and I'm sure the Cape Breton Partnership and as well as the Chamber of Commerce, the Cape Breton Partnerships helped me out with a bunch of stuff too, to direct me to these type of programs or community services. But you have to be willing to go out and look for them, because there's lots of stuff there. You just got to be willing to ask the question. I think it was Kate you said just asked, but they are out there, and the partnership and the Chamber of Commerce are where to look. Then they'll direct you. CBDC and and
awesome.
myself.
Yeah. I'm going to jump on one last question before I give you sort of the floor to sort of throw any last piece of advice. So, but mentorship, you touched on mentorship. How important was mentorship in your startup journey? Oh,
insanely important. It's been important since you're a young adult or a teenager. But the Futurpreneur set me up with a great mentor in my own community, and I've had several of my own outside of what was connected with me through Futurpreneur. Mind you, the mentor I have with Futurpreneur, we talk all the time. He helps out. Really important, because when you're starting your business or you're starting or your journey as an entrepreneur, it's hard, right? You need help, you need mentorship. You're not going to succeed without it, to be honest. So whether you have one provided to you through a program, or you have some that you can reach out to on your own, you can't be shy to do that or be too proud to do that, because you can get so much more insight, and it'll help you save you a few mistakes and probably a few dollars if you have a couple mentors in your life. So
for sure, that's great. So this is the end of our question and answer section. We're gonna actually, sorry, one, just to make sure, one I think may have just jumped in, but which is okay. I'd rather do some questions and answers with you if I need to cut a little bit of my own. Just a quick question: are you able to sell nationally or internationally?
yes, yeah. We just haven't like. We've only been going for about 15, 16 months now, and I mentioned the long list of stuff we have going on right now. But yes, yeah, we can. The way I looked at it is that it's Cape Breton, then Nova Scotia, then the Maritimes, then Canada, and then then so you just kind of build, like, you don't want to be selling to Alberta before you're selling in New Brunswick, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah, fair enough, for sure. Yeah,
definitely. But we can, yes.
The last question before I just sort of pass back to you, but is there what would you say is the most impactful part of mentorship comes from Paula?
Well, one, just having someone that, like, you can talk to, you know what I mean? It can be a lonely, hard journey, right? And just having someone that you can talk to, that will kind of help, like, lean and guide you, and just like what it does just for your mental health and just mental well-being is one. And then two is that it will save you a lot of mistakes that you could potentially make if you just didn't have someone to guide you along. That's because they've done it before you, and the mentors are usually someone, or mostly always someone you know and like and can trust.
Yeah.
Right. So it gives you a little bit of peace of mind, and it'll save you some hardships moving forward, no doubt.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to have a chance to chat a bit more about mentorship when I do my the next part of the presentation, which is when we're hearing a bit about Futurpreneur. But that's it for our question and answer. Keven, I don't know if you have any last words you wanted to say out to the audience, or whether it be inspirational or just whatever you'd like to throw out just at the very end to close it off.
I'll say one thing is, like, throughout your journey as an entrepreneur, if you're already a business owner or you're just starting up, whatever, I think the other big important thing is, like, you got to exercise, try to eat like somewhat healthy, and have a mentor or take care of your mental health, because running a business can be hard sometimes, and you really got to keep that yourself mentally healthy and have, like, because I know there's been times for myself where you work too hard, you have an extra cup of coffee, you have an extra cheeseburger, and then you can get into a world of problems, like living like that. So you always got to make sure you're keeping your mental health, your diet, exercise in your life, and you'll have a more successful entrepreneurial journey if you do that.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Keven. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time today to share your story with everyone, share some of the bits that you've learned along the way, and also for the great words about Futurpreneur as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Keven. And I'm sure you'll probably be on for the next 15 minutes. And we've got at the end, we'll have a quick a question and answer, just in case there's any last minute questions people wanted to jump in on. But thanks again. And I guess we'll jump into the next part of the presentation.
Thanks, my pleasure.
Okay, so let me just jump. Bear with me. So I've spent a little extra time on the Q&A, so I won't necessarily have quite as much time on Futurpreneur, but I'll share the website information, and my offer is to anybody that wants to hear more about us, please reach out to me one-on-one. I'd love to have a conversation with you, hear about the entrepreneurial idea that you're looking to get started with, and see how we might be able to help you. But we've been around for 25 years supporting entrepreneurs, and every entrepreneur gets financing and gets matched with a volunteer mentor. So it's a pretty amazing program. I just threw on the screen quickly just to see who do we fund. And I mean, in one sense, we can fund, it says many business ideas, almost most, but not quite everything. But from business professionals to restaurants, we actually support a lot of restaurants in Nova Scotia. We have a lot of really great businesses that are looking to get started in the food industry. I don't know if you hear that, but I'm in a building that has an alarm going off right now. But we've got whether it be retail or professionals like chiropractors, dentists, so pretty much everything. And we wanted to share or have Keven share his story, because he comes from a business that has a business that you can really think, I could do that. I could see myself doing something like that. So we really want to make people have that feeling that, yes, I could do it as well. So a little bit about us. The core program that we have to offer is financing and mentorship, and that's the one I'll just touch on quickly here. And there's some basic information about the program. So an entrepreneur has the ability, if they come to us, to access up to $60,000 in the form of a loan. Of that, $20,000 is Futurpreneur money, and then we have a partnership with the Business Development Bank of Canada, so an entrepreneur could receive an additional up to $40,000. So up to $60,000 in total. The really neat thing about our funding is it's no collaterals required. We look at your personal credit. We get you to sign a promissory note, like a promise to pay. So it is a legal document, but we're not going to ask you to put up your home or your car or something like that. That's not the way we work. Our interest rate is 6.2%, and from a business perspective, that's a very, I'll say, competitive rate. You know, it obviously isn't your mortgage rate, but that takes collateral. So this is a no collateral loan. So I think that's a great rate to get started with. We do everything on a 5-year term, and we recognize that in the very beginning, it's going to take you a little bit of time to get started. So it's interest-only payments in the beginning. So we're only going to charge you a smaller interest portion for the first 12 months till you're able to build up your revenues to a point and hopefully being able to make the principal payment starting in year 2. There's a little bit about our eligibility criteria. So we are a program that supports youth between the ages of 18 and 39. We do fund Canadian citizens or permanent residents. And the focus for us in our core program is new full-time businesses. And for us, if you've been in business less than 12 months full-time, so I noticed some people on the line said they've only been in business a few months, then you still could take advantage of our program. Or if you're brand new to business, you could also take advantage of our program. The two of the most important pieces that we need a business plan, but we've got some amazing programs to help you build a business plan. So that's awesome. And we need a 2-year cash flow forecast. And I mentioned that with our discussion with Kev, you know, he spent, I think, a lot of time working on his cash flow to make sure it was right to really project what revenue he was going to be bringing in and what expenses he had. And probably the most important part of our program is that we want you to work with a mentor. If you want a mentor to get matched with someone who's been there and done that, then our program is right for you. If you don't want a mentor, then our program probably isn't right for you. So that's an important part, is that we want to have someone who wants to have that support from a mentor who's been there and done that to be able to give you some advice, strategic advice around starting and growing your business. And we can support partnerships. The last bullet there is just about the fact that it's 51% of your business has to be owned by someone in our age eligibility. So if it is a partnership and you have someone that's a little older, you could still be eligible for our program. I'll touch on a couple other programs. So I mentioned that you have to have a full-time business, but we do have a program called our side hustle program. So that is if you plan on running a side business. So you keep a full-time job and you're still passionate about entrepreneurship, we could still possibly help you with money and a mentor. We've got 2 great programs as well. We have our Indigenous Startup program that an entrepreneur can access up to $60,000. We launched that, I think, about 3 years ago. And this past March, we launched our Black Entrepreneur Startup program that an entrepreneur can access up to $60,000 as well. So 2 other great programs to help support entrepreneurs getting started in business. And I know I'm talking fast. It's what I do, but it's also based on the time that we have. I want to make sure that I fit everything in. But this is a quote by one of our entrepreneurs, and Blow Dry Bar, Futurpreneur. Actually, sorry, she's a Futurpreneur board member and a volunteer mentor. And just a bit of a quote from her that I wanted to share. Have a moment to take a peek at that. But mentorship is such a huge part of our program, and a big part of what I do is to make sure that we find the right mentors for our entrepreneurs. We have a team in Toronto that helps support us in that, our mentoring associates, and they basically work, their sole job is to make sure that they match the right mentor with the right entrepreneur. So it's probably one of the most important things that we do in our program. So it's financing up to $60,000 and a volunteer mentor. So can't stress enough how important it is. Typically, the mentoring relationship is 2 years long, and we say it's upwards of 4 hours a month. Realistically, it's probably a monthly meeting. We want to get you together once a month, talk strategy, set some goals. A month later, revisit those goals, set some new goals. That's really the way the relationship's going to work. It all starts with what we call a meant to be orientation, and that's an orientation where you talk about how this relationship is going to work. We want to set the relationship up for success, and then after that, we let you continue on with your meetings as per your schedule that you've set up. It's important that we match you based on the skill set that you need. It used to be more important that we matched based on location, a little less important when a global pandemic happens and everything's done like this on screen. But you know, we still want if we can, we'd like the mentor to be in your general area so they can understand what's happening in the business climate and they can give you advice. They also may be able to connect you with some other contacts, you know, people that you don't know that they could possibly introduce you to help you grow your business. And it's meant to be a strategic mentor. So somebody who can offer that strategic business advice is not necessarily somebody who's going to, let's say, has a marketing background. They're not going to write your marketing plan, or an accountant. They're not going to do your books, but they're going to give you advice based on what that means. I just always have this stat at the very bottom, just because it's a study that shows that businesses are 70% more likely to still be in business after 5 years when matched with a mentor. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a volunteer mentor or not. That happens to be the way our program runs. Keven mentioned he's had a lot of mentors, you know, so in general, mentorship is very important. We have a program in the way it's set up, but generally speaking, mentorship is so important, whether you have a mentor through us or just a mentor on your own. It's just an important part of getting started in business. Touch on some of the great resources that we have. I said, you know, we'll go through a few of them, but we've got a business plan writer. It's on our website. You can actually create an account, and it's almost like a fill in the blank tool that helps you write a business plan. So it asks you all the questions. You just obviously have to do some research to fill in all those answers and those blanks. And at the end, you can print out a business plan into a Word document. We've got a cash flow forecasting tool, some regional and national networking events. One of the workshops that's happening right now, there's one now and there's one coming up again in December, but we've partnered with RBC. We've got a Rock My Business workshop series the 3 parts. Rock My Business Ideas happen this time around, but Rock My Business Plan and Rock My Cash Flow. So tons and tons of free support to get started. We have the Entrepreneur in Residence. Those are a team of individuals that will provide support to you. They'll look at the business plan, they'll give you some feedback, they'll meet with you to sort of do that over a series of 3 or 4 meetings. They run a series of webinars, and then there's a ton of other crash courses and other tools on our website that can help you under the resources tab. So futurpreneur.ca, click resources, ton of other great resources there to help you with your business plan. Sorry, I just want to click on the screen there. I don't have time to go through the success stories. I am going to click on the slides. I do have one other question I think I want to just touch on, I think, here as I'm going, but I'll let you read the quick story on each of these 2 entrepreneurs. They're both local Nova Scotia success stories. And actually, I have a question from Nona, but I'm going to ask Nona to touch base with me one-on-one, maybe, and I'll answer that question for you. But so this is Rebecca Atkinson. She owns Sober Island Brewery, and it's actually on Sober Island Brewery, which is sort of interesting. She started out with our startup program. She took advantage of our growth accelerator, which Keven, actually, that's right, Keven didn't mention, but one of the other programs that Keven was lucky to take a part of was our growth accelerator after he launched to help you grow your business. And the other success, before I pass it over to Tyler, that I want to touch on is Duckish Natural Skincare. And Duckish is a great example of a business that also started shortly before the pandemic. And they were just sort of scaling up their business. And one of the things that they produce, it's natural skincare products, but one of the things they produce is a hand lotion. And imagine what everyone needed when they started washing their hands like crazy and using hand sanitizer a year and a half ago. Everyone needed hand lotion. So their business really took off during the pandemic. So it's another great example of some of the success stories that we've been able to see. There's all my contact information. I'll ask you to take a look at that, jot down my email address and my phone number, go to our website. I'd love to have a chance to have a conversation with you one-on-one. I'm going to pass it over to Tyler now, and I think he's going to take us through the end. I hope I didn't cut into your time there, Tyler. He's going to cut us to the end of the presentation. And before I let you go, thanks very much to the Nova Scotia Regional Enterprise Networks for letting us do this together. It's great to be able to work together and highlight our partnership, that we can work together to help entrepreneurs in the community. Over to you, Tyler.
Awesome. Thanks so much, David. David, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, because I can't see myself? Okay, perfect. I'll be also quick. I was joking with David before, folks, that I'm the last person between you and getting off this computer, so I'll be quick. And just to send our appreciation. I am with the Cape Breton Partnership and the Regional Enterprise Networks here in Cape Breton. And it's great to work with David and Futurpreneur for collaborations like this. Keven, Taylor, thanks for sharing. You know, your logo in the CBRM in Cape Breton is becoming known, and And I'll tell you folks, he's just as passionate in person, just like walking down the street, as you saw him here today. So he's definitely a great guy and a great representative of Nova Scotia and Cape Breton. And as David said, thanks to the Nova Scotia Regional Enterprise Networks that go from stem to stern in Nova Scotia, and as well as the Halifax Partnership for bringing these kinds of collaborations together. So whatever stage of business you're in, we hope that this was valuable to you. I know I always learn myself from David and his team and from individual entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur, you know, as David said, please reach out to them to access those supports. And then there is a regional enterprise network or local economic development officer where you are. Our job is to know the Davids or the other organizations that are best for you at that time. And we're happy to help you make that. And we talk. So if David has a thing that will work better with someone else, he'll talk to me and vice versa. So please reach out and we won't, we'll make sure you don't have to call, you know, 3 people 3 times. For those of you who asked a question that wasn't answered, we'll send up a follow-up email with a session. We'll address those questions and there'll be a link to today's webinar. Thanks for attending, folks. We hope that you had a great day. I hope you have a good day going forward. And we hope that your business aspirations and current enterprises are doing well and are going to do well through these and other supports. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you. See you again soon.